Can you
Oh,
hear me?
whoa. Hey, I can hear you. What's up, buddy?
I'm the Trump supporter on the subreddit.
Yeah, I gathered that much.
What
What?
was that?
I gathered that much. What's up?
I, talk a little bit about the Iran deal because I feel like you're a little bit uneducated about the Iran deal.
Yeah, sure. What about it? What do you think I'm uneducated about it?
Well, first I want to say that Obama or John Kerry saved the Iranian regime. The regime was on the verge of collapse, economic collapse.
Okay.
And that deal, um, another point I want to make
Wait,
is
wait, wait.
that,
What is that point supposed to mean? Or what are you bringing that up for? What do you mean? Are you implying that it would be good if Iran were to collapse? Or
well, I'm not a big fan of the Iranian regime. I'll tell you that.
and are you under the
And
impression that if it collapses, something better or more preferential to America will replace it? Or
the regime change would be a possible uh, outcome,
yeah,
a
but do you
more
think a regime
modern.
change is always going to be beneficial to America in that region of the world?
I mean, not all countries, but definitely Iran. I mean, they're sponsoring a lot of terrorists, the Middle East.
So is Saudi Arabia. How is regime change working right now for Syria? Is that benefiting the rest of the world, do you think? Or
Well, I mean, it's apples and oranges.
no, it's not. It's apples and apples. Syria is a state that is not allegiant to the United States. We're supporting regime change in Syria. Iran is a state that's not allegiant to the United States, and now you want to support regime change in Iran, a regime that we helped kind
Well,
of build, by the way. But
support a regime change. I want the people of Iran to decide what they want for their government. If they want a regime change, we should support them.
okay, a
Look
lot of
at
people in Iran legitimately hate the U.S. for good reason, though. So I don't think you would necessarily want
well,
them.
well, how do you know that? How do you know
Because
that?
we fucked with it. Because the whole Iranian Revolution was spurred on by U.S. support. What do you mean? Because people literally chant "Death to America" in parts of Iran. There are people in Iran that really don't like the U.S.
They're
for good
regime
reason.
puppets. They're puppets. I mean,
Wait, you think that the only way you can hate the United States is if you're a puppet? You don't think anybody in the Middle East has a legitimate reason
I
to
mean,
hate the U.S.?
the majority of Iranians don't. They might have some kind of. They might not trust the American government, but that's irrelevant because they want a secular government, and Iran is a theocracy.
Okay,
And they were on the verge. The regime was on the verge of collapse. Then Obama threw them a life vest. Terrible
okay.
deal.
Yeah, let's move on to I would consider this to be positive. Generally, states collapsing is not usually in the interest of anybody. In the absence of any type of like central power, usually vacuums form, and then a lot of bad shit happens, like terrorist groups or more extremist regimes can come in, or mass migration if countries get destroyed, like in Syria. Like, but I mean,
Possibility.
what?
Sure. Sure. I mean, there's a possibility that we could see a Syria 2.0
I
in
mean, there's
Iran.
a good possibility. It's pretty rare that like a state completely collapses and then there's a very peaceful transition to a more democratic government that just also happens to be more allegiant to the U.S. afterwards. I mean, like that's a pretty exceptional like scenario that you're fantasizing about there. No?
Well, are you paying attention to Iran right now?
What about Iran right now?
Are you watching the news?
I mean, a
Uh,
little bit, but in regards to what specifically?
Protests in Iran right now, and the people are demanding a new government. Why do you think that is, Destiny? Why do you think this is happening? Like right after Trump pulling out of the Iran deal?
I don't know. I would have to go and look up specifically what you're talking about because I don't know what sources you're using for this. Like, well, let's move past this and tell me what else you hate about the Iran deal. I guess.
I thought that the deal should have some. Um, well, first of all, I didn't like the part where we unfroze the assets that was owed to. I mean, not owed to them, but it was the previous government's money that we unfroze. Um, You know about that, right? That's me.
Yeah, where we unfroze their assets. This is where a lot of Republicans claim that we shipped them millions of dollars or whatever, hundreds of millions of dollars, even though it was their money. Yeah,
It wasn't. It's not the current regime's money. So
sure, but it was
I
money
don't.
owned to the state of Iran. But
The
like what?
money's not going to the Iranian people. The money is going to the terrorist organizations in Syria
Okay,
and Yemen.
it's going to be really hard to get me on board with criticizing Iran for supporting terrorist organizations when we're friendly with all of the Gulf states. Like, you're not going to get me on board with that. If you want to be super critical about terrorism, that's fine. But then we need to talk about why we support countries like Saudi Arabia, which is the biggest like supporter of terrorism in the Middle East when it comes to Sunni shit, right? ISIS or the civil war in Yemen. Like, I mean. So it's really hard to bring me on board with the I don't want to do this because of terrorism memes. It's going to be really hard to get me over there.
So
So like, why else do you think it was a bad deal? Well, okay, so like, let's focus on like the principal part of the deal, okay? Because this is all.
okay, can I make a one quick point right now?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, go for it.
I'm probably repeating myself, but Iran. If you go, I want you to look up an interview with the Prince of Iran, who was exiled in when the regime fell. He said that Iran, even him, he's an educated man. He's from Iran, and he knows the situation better than me and you. Was on the verge of collapse, and there were people. They were on the verge of a regime change.
Okay, but you're making the reason why this is good for you is because you're making the assumption that regime change would turn out positively for the United States. You have no idea if that's how it would actually happen.
You could always assume.
Yeah, but these assumptions have been made in the past, and they haven't worked out as well as they. Look at what happened with the Arab Spring, right? That started in Tunisia, where regime change happened incredibly positively. But then when that was repeated in other parts of the Middle East, it didn't happen anywhere near as nicely as it did in Tunisia. I just don't like this assumption. I feel like we're playing because if you want to play up your fantasy hypothetical, then your argument is totally right. Like, we should have let Iran collapse, and then a really super good democracy would have come in that loves America and doesn't support at least the bad terrorists in the Middle East. And that, I mean, like, if we're playing in that fantasy world, then sure, I can agree with you. But you can't give me any assurance that any regime change in Iran would be positive for the region or for the United States interests. Like. Hello? Testing 1, 2, 3. Okay, I think he's having connection troubles. It feels like I can't really know for sure without talking to him more, but it sounds like he has like this. Oh, he just disconnected. Fuck. I'm sure he'll come back. It feels like he has this idea that like, and I notice a lot of conservatives have this idea that America is like the global good guy, that America is very much like the good guy around the world, and that the more you let people fight amongst themselves and the good guys win, people around the world will all love America. Like, I think that's like a big conservative idea that give people the ability to rebel against their government, and the next government that comes will always be somebody that loves America. That's I think I get that feeling, or I get that feeling talking to this guy. That might not be what he feels like, though. What act do I get Sunder in? This shit sucks. I don't like Molten Strike. Do you agree with those that would label Trump and his supporters as fascists? I think you can fairly call Trump fascist, and the people that support a lot of what he moves, and a lot of the directions that he moves, I think you could make good arguments for him being a fascist kind of person. This kind of like goal to centralize power, this goal to attack the media and silence critics, this kind of like ultra nationalism that he pushes, which he very much does. I think that if we were to go and read, read the definition of fascism, I think Trump has like moved in a direction that matches a lot of that kind of rhetoric pretty well. How come no gameplay? I can't show gameplay on YouTube. It's part of my Twitch contract. Trump's far right, but he's not fascist. I don't even know if I would agree that Trump is far right, actually. But I think you can make strong arguments for fascism. Fascism is the marriage of corporatism and the state? What? I've never heard of that before. That might be true, but I've never heard of that. I'll just go by the wiki definition. Fascism is a form of radical authoritarian ultranationalism characterized by dictatorial force, forcible suppression of opposition, and control of industry and commerce, which came to prominence in early 20th century Europe. I guess control of industry and commerce could be the marriage of corporatism and the state. Is that... Fascists believe that liberal democracy is obsolete, and they regard the complete mobilization of society under a totalitarian one-party state as necessary to prepare a nation for armed conflict and to respond effectively to economic difficulties. Such a state is led by a strong leader, such as a dictator, and a martial government composed of the members of the governing fascist party to forge national unity and maintain a stable and orderly society. Fascism rejects assertions that violence is automatically negative in nature and views political violence, war, and imperialism as means that can achieve natural rejuvenation. Fascists advocate a mixed economy with the principal goal of achieving autarky through protectionist and interventionist economic policies. I mean, I think Trump matches up with most of this like pretty well, but I don't know. Fascism is a socialist ideology? Isn't, from a governmental point of view, isn't socialism pretty decentralized? Like different, because you have like different like worker-owned, not co-ops, but like different worker-owned coalitions like across the country and shit. I don't think socialism is unified under a government, is it? I could be wrong on that. I need to take like a political theory class. Socialism is a range of economic and social systems characterized by social ownership and democratic control of the means of production, as well as the political theories and movements associated with them. Socialism ownerships may refer to public, collective, or cooperative ownership, or to citizens' ownership of equity. There are many varieties of socialism, and there's no single definition encapsulating all of them. Okay, so maybe some form. Communism is stateless. Yeah, I know that. Communism is stateless, but socialism doesn't necessarily have to be stateless, sure. The debate guy is back. Okay. All right, hey, what up, buddy? Wait, can you hear me? Hello? I'm talking to you, Crypto. You're dragged in chat. Whenever you talk about socialism, it seems like you almost talk about communism. Yeah, they're very close in my mind. The only difference between socialism and communism is that I think communism is the complete absence of a state. Other than that, I wouldn't be able to give you concrete differences between socialism and communism. Oh, also, I don't think socialism implies a government, whereas communism implies the absence of government. Like, I think technically socialism can exist under democracy or totalitarian dictatorship. Could it? Maybe? Or I don't know. Like, socialism could exist under a variety of government types, I think, but communism implies no government. Like, socialism, I don't think is a commentary on the government at all, but I could be wrong. I'm not sure. From a political standpoint, they are very different. Yeah, it's possible. I just don't know the differences between the two. Would you classify Scandinavian countries as socialist? Most of those are still free market, mixed economies or whatever, aren't they? Or mixed markets? Marx never made a distinction between socialism and communism? Okay, well, I'm not reading Das Kapital. Fuck that shit. Communism implies central ownership, right? While socialism is local citizen ownership. That sounds... I didn't know communism implied central ownership. I could be wrong on that, but... I would have to... one day we'll spend a whole day reading that wiki, okay, guys? Socialism is more of an economic philosophy, whereas communism is a political philosophy. Yeah, that's what I kind of thought, but... Stop listening to these people. They don't know shit. Damn. Communism is quote-unquote enforced through revolution. It's an interesting, that seems like a kind of a biased way of looking at it. I mean, capitalism is enforced through state violence. I don't know. It seems kind of like it's kind of loaded, but. Crypto, why am I muted? I don't think you're muted. Your microphone's not working, buddy. Right click. Server mute, server no, you're not muted at all. I got in contact with Marty, Joe's manager. He said he'd check out your shit. Wow, buddy. What he means is that communism and fascism are revolutionary movements that build heavily on this idea. Okay, sure. Everyone just talking about past countries that... Oh, like socialism can only happen after a revolution, maybe? For communism, people need to seize the means of production, so at the end of the day, either peaceful or violent revolution is required for it to happen. Oh, sure. To get from capitalism to communism or socialism, you don't think you could vote your way there? Does it have to be by force? I don't know. Would capitalists ever willingly give up their capital? Seems like they probably wouldn't. Shut the fuck up, dude. There is no unified fascist plan? You sure about that? Jordan Peterson talks about that unified Marxist shit or whatever. Crypto, your mic's not working, buddy. Maybe try restarting Discord? When you die in an so Mr. Moon, did Mr. Moon die in his SSF character? Or? As a young gun owner myself, I've been having a hard time justifying owning a gun due to the current political climate. I enjoy going to the range and hunting, but no matter my reasoning for owning a gun, I'm still looked at as some crazy person who needs guns to defend myself. I also do not have my CCL, concealed carry license, CCL. We call them CCWs in Nebraska. Yeah, I don't know, dude. It's really hard. I mean, people might look at me as crazy because I like guns or own guns or whatever, but yeah, I mean, it's a fair. I don't know. To be honest, I assume people are crazy when they say they own guns. So, so I don't know, dude. Maybe I'm a big hypocrite. Yeah, I don't know. Most gun owners are fucking crazy. I really like guns a lot, but like, damn, dude, gun owners are fucking so stupid, and they're irresponsible as fuck in the U.S. as well. Like, if there was like a thing, if there was some meme to get rid of all the guns in the U.S., not just ban them, but actually get rid of them so people couldn't still use them illegally, I would probably vote yes on it. As much as it would be kind of sad or whatever to lose something that's kind of recreational to me, I'd probably vote yes on it. Like, fucking people in the U.S. are fucking stupid, and they probably don't deserve guns. There's a good is it Jim Jeffries? I always fuck his name up. He's either Jim Jeffries or Jeff Jeffries. The Australian dude has a pretty good skit on like gun ownership in the U.S. Where do you draw the line? Well, guns are something that exist only for recreation. But what about, I'm a hunter? 99% of the time, okay, guns are generally for recreation, okay? Well, even hunting is usually for recreation. Well, what about in the one city where sometimes if you kill the deer, it keeps the overpopulated... Okay, 99% of the time, guns and gun-related shit are for recreation. Maybe we can make an exception for people that actually hunt for conservation reasons or some shit. But generally, it's just for recreation. So something that exists that's only for recreation that has a massive negative detriment on the country in terms of, like, killing people and shit is probably not good. Although, arguably, does it even have, like, a massive, like, detriment? How many people have to die for this to be, like, outlawed? I'm not even actually sure what the answer to that is. What about fancy cars? Is that supposed to say fancy cars? How else are Second Amendment advocates supposed to justify a hobby that gets people killed? They have to claim that it's for self-defense or have a defensible position at all. Oh, maybe. I think it got fixed. I'm really hungry, okay? So we gotta wrap this shit up. What's up, buddy? Can you talk now?
Can you hear me?
Hey, I can hear you. What's up?
Okay, so yeah, I was gonna make a point about the Iranian people. They want to move toward a more secular government. They no longer want to be governed by religious nutjobs that run the current government in Iran. And I think that they should have the right to protest and should have the right to a regime change.
Okay, I mean, they already have the right to protest and whatnot, don't they?
Get shot. They don't have the right because Iranian government, they are.
Or I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I misspoke. When I say right to protest, I mean like if they want to protest their government or do like a revolution or whatever, that's on them. They can do that, right? That's like up to them. The U.S. doesn't necessarily have to back that.
When the U.S. Signs a deal that puts more money into the wallets of the mullahs in Iran, it's going to be a lot harder for the people to change that government.
Sure, but our responsibility right now isn't to the people in Iran. That's not who we're looking out for with the Iran deal. Our responsibility is trying to prevent Iran from...
Yeah, Destiny. We have in the Middle East, America has a lot of assets that is being disrupted by the Iranian government. So it's not putting money into their wallets. It's bad for the Iranian people that want secular government and for America.
Okay, I don't want Iran to have nuclear weapons. That's my number one concern. Iran fucking with us while we fuck in the Middle East is not something that I care about. I feel like we should kind of move on to the meat of this, which is the nuclear weapon thing. It's going to be really hard to get me on board with some type of like terrorism interest in the Middle East, because all of that shit is so fucked right now anyway, and I don't think we're very honest about what we want to do there anyway. So yeah, I don't know, like what.
I'm not a big fan of the. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I'm not a big fan of the government in Iran, and I do want to.
Yeah, I understand that, but it's not our responsibility as the United States to be regime changing other governments. It's not our job. That's not. I don't want to be involved in that in the U.S. We did that in Iraq.
I don't want the United States to support the.
I don't. But the goal. I mean, that might happen like by chance. Like that might be what ends up happening. But like the goal is to prevent Iran from getting nuclear weapons. Like that was the goal of the Iranian deal. And maybe in the future they can have a regime change. But right now, the immediate pressing thing isn't like we need to help the Iranian people. Like, and also this whole conversation is done because this is also all predicated on the idea that if a revolution were to occur, whatever government comes after would be good, which is something that you definitely cannot guarantee regardless. So like this whole conversation is predicated on a hypothetical that might not even be substantiated in reality.
I mean, it might not be a pro-American government, but we can't just oppress.
We're not oppressing anybody. It's an agreement made between the government. If the government is involved in oppressive stuff, that's on them. It's not our job to tell Iran, its people or its government how to function.
Maybe the next regime might not be friendly to America, so let's just silence the protesters in Iran. I mean, you can't do that.
Iran can. It's their country. It's up to them to do it. It's their country. They're an autonomous state.
Just saying that. Okay, and also want to make this point really quick too. I read on the news that a lot of Iranian politicians negotiate the Iran deal with Donald Trump. So what do you think about that?
That they what, Donald Trump?
Negotiate the deal.
That a lot of the Iranian politicians that negotiated the deal, what, Donald Trump? I missed that part.
No, okay. There are some politicians in Iran to renegotiate the deal.
We haven't renegotiated the deal, though, have we?
That's what they want. They want the people in charge to renegotiate the deal
Okay.
with a big win for Donald Trump. Because you got Iran. Because look, Iran needs the United States more than the United States need Iran.
Well,
And now they're begging to renegotiate the deal.
of course
Better
they want to
deal.
renegotiate the deal because right now their economy is kind of fucked with all the sanctions. It's had a pretty big impact on.
They're fucked. And so, what do you think about that? That's a win for Trump. You don't think that?
How is it a win for Trump? We negotiated a deal with Iran that both parties were happy with, and any reasonably intelligent person was happy with, and then we pulled out, and now they want to negotiate it again. Of course that makes sense. What do you mean?
It was not a good deal. You know it too.
How is it not a good deal? We stopped Iran from pursuing nuclear weapons. How was that not good? That was the goal of the
I'll
deal.
tell
What?
You left it. Okay, I'll tell you why it wasn't a good deal. You lifted a bunch of sanction on Iran, and they used the money to fund terrorists.
It's up to
groups.
how Iran uses the money is up to them, and I don't care. The goal of the Iran deal wasn't to make the Iran another U.S. puppet state like Israel is. The goal of the deal was to keep Iran from pursuing nuclear weapons. That was the goal, and it was reasonably successful in achieving that goal. That's all I care about. I don't care about how Iran uses its money or if terrorist organizations are being funded by Iran or whatever. The Gulf states do it anyway, and we love them. So, like, that's just not a concern. I just don't care about that at all.
Maybe you don't care, but a lot of people do, because that money is going to terrorist groups that are attacking American allies.
Okay, what about the Palestinians when we support Israel? Or what about the
What about them?
how do you think they feel about the fact that we support Israel? Or what about the people in Yemen that are being fucked up by Saudi-backed fucking rebel fighters or whatever? Or how about the people in Iraq that were torn in half as a result of our intervention in that country? Like, I mean, like, we do this shit all the time in the Middle East. How can you pick and choose sides here and decide who has the moral high ground to act in some way? This is just it just seems like such an impossible argument to even get into. Why not just focus on what the Iran deal was about, which was keeping Iran from getting nuclear weapons, which is something that everybody should be able to agree on is a good thing, regardless of if you're a Republican or Democrat, or if you're a Sunni or a Saudi, or if you're a Sunni or a Shiite, or part of the Ayatollah in Syria, or anybody. Like, everybody should be on board, pretty much, with not wanting Iran to get to nuclear weapons. How can you think this is a bad thing?
I mean, you could make you well. It's. I told you why I think it's a bad deal. I don't agree with my argument. I don't think Iran should be able to fund terrorist groups like Gaza and Hezbollah, who uses the money to attack Israel, which is one of our allies.
Okay, so you think that it's okay that because Iran might use their money to support some terrorist groups, that we need to say fuck the whole Iran deal and maybe they get nuclear weapons? That trade-off is acceptable in your mind?
No, I'm not saying that.
Okay, so then what do we do now that Iran is making progress again towards nuclear weapons? Like, congratulations. Like, what's the next part of your master plan?
I don't know if they're progressing to a nuclear.
I'm pretty sure, didn't Iran begin spinning up their centrifuges again as soon as the deal collapsed? I could be wrong on that. I feel like I read news articles saying that.
I mean, the sanctions that are on Iran right now that has been put on by this administration is preventing a lot of things. Iran, they can't. Right now, their economy is collapsing on the street.
How long has North Korea's economy been collapsing? I think we have like different priorities here. I don't want Iran to get nuclear weapons. That's very scary to me. This idea of like some terrorists might be supported in the Middle East or whatever, it takes like such a huge backseat to the idea of Iran being a nuclear capable nation. That changes a lot of what's going to happen in the Middle East if that becomes a reality. I don't care. I couldn't give a fuck less about whether Iran supports different terrorist groups than the terrorist groups that the United States and U.S. allies support. Like, I don't understand why Iran getting to nuclear weapons is not an issue that you might have, especially if you're so convinced that Iran supports terrorists.
I mean, I think you get a better deal under Trump.
Really? How? What part could be better?
support terrorist groups like Hezbollah. How about that?
So you think that Trump is going to be able to
You don't
negotiate
care
that after
about
he already walked out of this deal? What about his North Korean deals? Why has he failed miserably in getting North Korea to make any concessions on their nuclear program? Well, we already gave up some military presence in that part of the world.
I haven't heard about like a nuclear testing by North Korea in the
They're
recent
still
days.
making there are multiple reports, unless you listen to Glenn Greenwald, I guess.
I mean,
Multiple reports are saying that North Korea is still working towards their nuclear weapons program, and we have already made military concessions in that part of the world where we're not going to do military exercises anymore with South Korea. How does that sound like a better deal than the
well,
amazing amount of oversight we had with the Iran deal?
I heard that was fake news, so I'm not sure. I have to do my own research on that, and if they are
Okay,
doing what
here.
they say they
Okay,
are,
let's pretend
I'm
let's
not happy about that.
okay.
I don't want North Korea with a nuclear. But
Let's pretend that was fake news. Well, here, let's pretend that was fake news, okay? What concessions did we get out of North Korea?
just by having them stopping their testing is a big.
So that's all it takes for it to be a good deal with North Korea. But when it comes to Iran, you want to start attaching like what they're allowed to fund, how they're allowed to spend their money, who they're
I
allowed to
don't know.
support.
I don't know if North Korea is supporting terrorist groups that want to kill our allies.
How
I'm
about
not sure
North?
about
Okay, first of all, North Korea itself is like a huge threat to our allies. People like Japan are very unhappy with North Korea having ICBMs and nuclear capabilities.
that. But they're not funding terrorist groups. And I see that like with North Korea, the goal is to disarm their nuclear abilities, right?
Yeah.
Iran is a lot bigger than just nukes.
Maybe we should focus on like just the nukes because that's like the most important pressing part.
I also don't trust the Iranian government either. So
You don't have to. We had independent oversight from the UN that was checking in on their facilities. You don't have to trust Iran. That was the nice part about the Iranian deals. And in some facilities, we had 24/7 surveillance set up. And then in other facilities, we were allowed to come in, or the UN was allowed to come in and investigate it at any point in time. And by the way, they passed every single inspection the UN did.
am I still on?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I would rather see the government in Iran. To be
Okay.
honest with
Yeah, I guess, I mean, like, if you're literally like an American imperialist and your goal in any deal is to dismantle foreign governments, then I can see why the Iran deal would be, like, hugely disappointing to you. But holy shit, that mentality on foreign policy is literal fucking AIDS. I don't know. This like really juvenile idea you have that America is the good guy in the Middle East and that all these other people are terrorists is just so hilariously fucking childlike that like I almost feel bad for you that you actually believe that. Wow. I mean, I don't know what else to say. Like,
you want to protect your ally. The morals right now in this argument. If you're America, you want to protect.
No, I don't really give. I guess like when I think about these deals, I don't really care about protecting our allies. My concern right now is to make it so that Iran doesn't get nuclear weapons. That was the point of the Iran deal. If we want to talk about like Iran funding people that we don't like or something like that, I mean that could be on the table later. But like you're almost making it sound like we need like a regime change as part of like them not getting nukes. When I think that them not getting nukes is like the central part of the deal, not whether or not they fund groups that are at ends with the groups that we fund.
Iranian people want a regime change.
If they want a regime change, it's up to them to get it. We're not the world police. It's not our job to go around and help other countries get new regimes. It's not what we're supposed to do. We already did that in Iraq, and that's been a fucking disaster. And we've done it with other countries around the world, too, where it turns out to be not as successful either.
With the Iraq, it was just an invasion. I'm not talking about a war.
We didn't just invade Iraq, though. We did a regime change in Iraq that was largely regarded as a fucking miserable failure. Everything we've done in Iraq over the past 10, 15 years has been fucking horrible. It was a massive failure.
I agree with you. I think the Iraq war was a mistake, and I think that Iraq would be better off under Saddam Hussein right now.
Even though
But
Saddam
I mean,
Hussein
we can't.
might have been funding groups that we don't like, or Saddam Hussein himself engaged in terrorist activities against people that we like. Like invading
Okay,
Kuwait, gashing the Peshmerga, the Kurdish people, and like, I mean, I don't know,
it's
dude.
up
Like the
people
or sorry, go ahead.
people to overthrow their government, and I mean, if that's what they want, we shouldn't support the government by giving them trillions of dollars in unfrozen assets.
Okay, well, I guess it's just like if in 10 years, like people in the Middle East start nuking each other, and it's because we couldn't get Iran to fund the terrorist groups, to stop funding terrorist groups that we don't like and support our terrorist groups, that would be a really fucking sad reality to me. That we walked away from what was universally lauded as a pretty good fucking deal to keep Iran from getting nuclear weapons, that we walked away from that because we couldn't literally enforce a regime change through a deal on nuclear arms. Like,
Actually, you keep saying we force regime. We're not forcing anything. Iran is demanding a regime change. They're the ones saying death to Khamenei. They're the ones saying death. They're saying death to Lebanon.
Personally, I'm impressed he's
Gaza.
gone this long without mentioning
we want
crooked
the government
Hillary.
to help us. They're the one who's saying this. We're not doing anything.
okay, I just think it just feels like the scope of what you wanted this deal to do is so much bigger than what it'll ever do. And by the way, there is zero fucking chance that Trump is going to negotiate any type of deal that involves like either regime change or funding restrictions on Iran, and then like ropes in a nuclear deal alongside this. Like,
Read that they're thinking about either not renegotiating a new deal, or if they do renegotiate a deal, they'll make it a lot tougher for Iran to fund these.
Iran's own politicians were already like lambasted by the Iranian citizens for agreeing to the deal that they did agree with. They already got pushback locally from the concessions that they did make. So I mean, like, the idea that we could get them to make even more with somebody is to be quite frank, as stupid as Trump. I don't know. That just sounds like fantasy to me. But I mean, maybe. I mean, also, well, if anything, why would Iran agree to another deal if they know that any other future president could just walk the fuck out of it too, right? Like, that hurts our international opinion as well. With the fact that we made a deal that was agreed on by multiple countries, that Trump was just like, fuck it, I'm just gonna walk out of this. Like, that also hurts our credibility too.
Their economy is in shambles.
Their economy's been in shambles for a decade. Sanctions have adversely impacted Iran for a long fucking time.
Destiny, Google USD to Iranian rial.
Why?
Because their currency is the value of their currency in the last couple of weeks is going down. And this is because of Trump pulling out of the Iran deal, and this is what caused the protests.
I mean, like, this. First of all, comparing the USD to any currency is not a valid way to measure the strength of the economy. Secondly, the USD has been gaining strength against every currency in the world. It's actually a big problem for the US right now for our trade. The USD has been massively gaining strength against like literally every single currency. So why would you use that as your example, as like saying that like, I don't think that's a valid way of comparing the economic sufficiency of a country.
It does, because the people, they're no longer are able to buy a lot of things that they used to. Iran is no longer able to import a lot of stuff from
This guy reads up on history. We already did regime change in Iran. It was a failure.
Okay, I mean, yeah, like we've
the
done.
The Iran deal caused religious extremists to win in elections and centrists who made the deal to lose.
I guess we'll just see how it plays out in the future. Like, I don't know. I haven't seen anything good come from breaking the Iran deal. I don't see the idea of some magic regime change happening where they all love America now all of a sudden. Like, we're not very popular over there, and for good reasons.
Okay, let me make one last point.
Yeah, go for it.
You know what the Iranian people, we know who they hate right now?
Who?
On street protests, but you know who they hate?
Who?
Democratic Party.
Who?
Democrats.
Oh, okay. Why is that? Because of crooked Hillary?
because for making that deal with Iran.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why do they hate him for making the deal with Iran again? Because it was too tough or not tough enough?
No, because for putting money in the wallet of these of the mullahs in Iran, and the mullahs they got rich, and
I'm actually curious. Do you have polling data that shows that like Iranian people don't like the American Democratic Party, or is this like a Breitbart meme or something?
no, it's on Twitter. I mean, I don't know.
Okay.
I'm just reading on Twitter. A lot of them are not a big fan of on Kerry.
Okay, so you're looking at like millions of people's opinions on Twitter, or just like you've seen a couple?
So I'm Iranian family members, and they're also not a fan of Obama.
Oh, well, if your family is Iranian, I mean, that must be a representative sample. Does your family have like 500,000 people in it, or?
No, not that many, but I know a lot of Iranians. I know a lot of Persians too. Yeah, the money is going, instead of being used on the people of Iran to make their lives better, the money is going to.
Yeah, like again, we've already moved. It's not up to us to tell Iran how to spend their money. That's not the job of the United States. That wasn't the goal of the deal, was to tell them how to spend their money. And there's no way that Trump is going to craft a deal that includes negotiating the Iran federal budget. Like,
Weedbird needs to come out and play. He's not a man. He's
it's
a
up to the
chicken
people of
boo.
Iran to decide where the money should go, and a lot of them are upset that the money is not going, and the money is being shipped out to these other.
what about
countries.
North Korea? Is a lot of the money going to be available to the poor citizens of North Korea working in the labor camps?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess we have to wait and see.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, do you have any other final points or anything you want to get out, buddy?
Yesterday you said that Jordan Peterson shouldn't have any opinion on American politics because he's Canadian. Do you believe that? Or am I saying
No,
it right?
you can have opinions on American politics if you're Canadian. Sometimes he steps out of his like zone a lot, and he says some really fucking dumb shit, and that just kind of triggers me sometimes.
I mean, I watched your stream. I watched your debates. I like you. I saw you on Ice's stream. Some of your other debates.
This guy
Okay.
is literally retarded.
Well, hey,
The
listen,
religious
I'm glad you
leaders
came
of
on.
Iran
I enjoyed
opposed the
talking to you.
deal.
I know it's hard to talk online
After
about
the
this kind
deal
of stuff,
collapsed,
so
they gained more support.
thanks, buddy.
Just look at the last few local elections.
Yeah, maybe I'll talk to you later.
Yeah. Goodbye.
All right, have a good one, dude.
Ready to revisit the past? The more you kill, the more you change my map. And the closer we get to finding the
Ooh.
truth in the present day. Hello.
Okay.
There you are. Ready to revisit.
Can I go get food? Good debate. Much was learned. Okay, Iranian homie, if you want to jump in real quick, fucking go for it. Join the Discord and I'll drag you in. Sure, why not, dude? All right, what up, my
Hello?
dude?
Oh yeah, what's up, man?
You sound like you're from California. Where are you from?
Nah, man, از ایران به دنیا آمدم.
What?
Man, از ایران به دنیا آمدم. Do you know what that means?
I have no fucking idea. Okay, I believe you.
It means I was born in Iran.
Okay. I
اسم
believe
تو
you.
Destiny است. That means your name is Destiny. How are you?
Okay. Hey, what's up? How are you? I believe you.
Who the
man.
fuck was that guy you brought on earlier?
I don't know.
Who is that guy?
All right, talk to us. What do you think he said that was wrong? What do you disagree with?
Jesus fucking Christ, dude. Where do I start? What do you think was one of the big things he was wrong about? We can talk about that.
So I feel like if there was a revolutionary regime change in Iran, I don't feel like the new regime would be loyal to the United States. That's a feeling that I have. Do you think that's correct or incorrect?
Absolutely. In fact, I don't think it would be friendly whether or not it was organic either, right? So I don't even know what would happen. I think there's this giant push from Americans to make it so there's a guaranteed friendly.
Well, yeah, we would install
government.
somebody. We would basically back a group that we felt like had a leader that represented our interests, and then we would like enforce, or we would support them, and like it's some kind of revolutionary war would be the goal, right? That's how we normally do things.
But I think even the way that we're kind of saying it is kind of inherently fucked up. What does that mean like is going to be friendly. Like when is the last time Iran has really done anything to the United States in terms of
Well,
scope
the
of
problem we have
conflict?
right now is that the Shia. Okay, I'm sorry. Iran is the Ayatollah, correct?
Sure.
Okay,
he's
what
the
is
supreme leader.
Yeah, what is Syria? Syria is not considered Shia. There's another name for what they are, but they're kind of like.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, what is it? What are they called?
Fuck, I forget what it's. God damn it, I'd have to look it up. I know what you're talking about.
Okay, yeah,
It's
because
not
I
Shia,
said
correct.
Syrian Ayatollah earlier, and that was incorrect. Iran is the Ayatollah. But I think
Right.
basically, I think our problem with Iran is that the Shia states in the Middle East tend to be more allegiant towards the Russia, and we want people that are more allegiant towards the United States. So that's our issue. I think is that
Sure.
yeah.
Sure, I think that's our foreign policy
Yeah,
stance on it.
pretty much.
But
That like the Gulf states are not fans of Iran and kind of Iraq, and then Syria.
yeah, correct. I guess I don't see why we need. Let's take a step back. So we want a friendly regime there. Let me ask, why is that? What's the real intent? What's the geopolitics behind that?
I feel like we want friendly regimes in the Middle East because we want to hurt Russia's ability to mobilize forces around the world. So, for instance, Syria contains the port of Tartus, which is one of 2 warm water ports that Russia still has access to. And if we could install somebody loyal... Oh, and then also there might be oil memes as well, that controlling these countries gives us more influence over oil-related stuff, being able to pump oil directly to Mediterranean shit without having to go through weird shit. So the Russian shit and maybe the oil shit, but I think it's mainly the Russian shit when it comes to global politics or geopolitics.
Yeah. Do you think Israel is a factor in any of that?
Yeah, well, yeah, I think that Israel is very much our ally there. I've heard that Israel... this might be a Ryan Dawson, but I think Israel has a lot to say about oil being shipped in that region, and that the idea of Syria forming a pipeline. What's the big pipeline? With the is it with the Sunni? No, it's a pipeline from China through.
Through Syria.
Yeah, through Syria, and I think through
northern
Iran.
I think.
And
Yeah.
It's not Afghanistan. It might be. It's not Pakistan. Fuck, one of those southeast countries from Iran. But but like that's a worry that Israel has, that they don't want that to happen. But
Yeah. Well, I think I don't know if this sounds kind of conspiracy theorist or not, but I think there's a secondary kind of plan there to kind of have a sense of like a greater Israel is kind of what they call it, right? So the continued border expansion of Israel and kind of weeding out some of these Arab territories in there. Right now, I think Iran is the last key player in the Middle East that does not kind of join this Western-led imperialist attitude that's kind of been going on since the end of World War II. And what that really implies is that we've been having this geopolitical play for the past 50 years that like whatever we want, we're gonna get it through regime change no matter what. Like it's gonna be give me, and it's still going on today. Iran, North Korea, Russia, they're kind of sitting there and saying we're not going to take part in this anymore. We're actually going to defend ourselves. We know what usually happens to those states. So when we use these terms like, Iran isn't cooperating, they're funding terrorism, they're doing all this bad shit, really that's propaganda. The real intent of what they're doing is that they're trying to show the world that, hey, you don't have to be like basically submissive to any of these imperialist attitudes. Now, when I say imperialism, people like kind of lose their mind. Like, no, we're not going to go and colonize them. No, it's not the same thing. It's not the same exact fucking thing. I get it, but it's a different fucking attitude towards the same general...
it's
desire,
pretty much like
is to
installing
take
a leader that
resources.
is loyal to your same geopolitical interests is pretty imperialistic. I mean, like, it's not exactly like colonizing, but yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, this is why I don't like
really,
America's foreign policy direction in the Middle East. I think we're really dishonest about our goals there.
When you look at Iran, I mean, what the fuck? It's honestly, I know I'm gonna get so much hate for fucking saying this, but they're a fucking benign country. What the fuck have they been doing? Have we been sending soldiers over left, right, and center out of nowhere? Have we been fucking declaring war on Afghanistan? Have we sent soldiers to?
Well, like I think isn't Iran involved in funding? Is it Hamas and Hezbollah? Am I incorrect in that? Like, aren't they involved in like funding like anti-Israeli shit and like Palestine and stuff, which is a direct contrary to American interests there?
Yes,
yeah.
You're correct. There's definitely funding there, and I hate to be that guy, but it's like some of these fundings that are going on. It's a fucking stretch to call it terrorism, man. It's a fucking stretch.
Kind of. Well, I just don't like calling it. Or go ahead.
Yeah. No, you go ahead.
I was gonna say, I don't like to call it terrorism because it seems like we do it. It's just on the other side. It's like I think Carlin would say it's the difference between like a rebel versus like a freedom fighter, or a terrorist versus a freedom fighter. It just depends on whose interests they're representing, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's an element to that. But if I fund a soldier that kills another soldier, is that terrorism?
I mean, if you're against America, then we would say yes, right?
Okay, so but I'm not saying that. I mean, like in the general, like non-retarded understanding, is that terrorism? So if
Oh
I
no!
find
Well,
you,
in the general non-retarded thing, I mean, like I'm very uncomfortable calling like anything over there terrorism. It's very I don't even know what terrorism really means. Like
exactly,
people
right.
would argue that terrorism is non-combatant people or people without uniforms fighting each other. I don't know. Maybe people would argue that targeting civilians is, but they wouldn't say Hiroshima was terrorism because that was like
Right.
part of war. It's like yeah, I don't know. Like I feel like these terms are incredibly political. You know?
Exactly, exactly. And the problem with using these terms is that you use these terms, and then the United States is currently at a war on terrorism. So what does that inherently fucking imply?
Yeah.
That whatever that originating state is doing, we're inherently at war with. So everything that they're fucking doing, we're going to be against. And that's what I see the propaganda arm in America doing. It's not that they actually objectively look at what Iran is doing case by case.
Mm-hmm.
It's that they will take the position completely 180 to whatever the fuck they're doing. So this nuclear deal, I absolutely agree was the right thing to do. I think there was enough international people kind of monitoring the situation, and it wasn't getting out of hand. They were all heading in the right way.
I feel dumb saying it, but like like a year, no, not a year. It was like a couple of years ago. I said that like coming out of the Obama administration, like the two huge landmark achievements that his administration will have had would have been the healthcare thing and then the Iranian deal. Those would have been the things that people would have looked back on as the most insanely amazing things that Obama was able to do.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you on that. So now we're in this kind of weird situation where we are slowly starting to see propaganda come out of what is happening there. So I've heard, now get this, I've heard fucking reports that, I even think that dipshit you brought on earlier, he's not Iranian, by the way. He was clearly Israeli. You can kind of tell by the accent he had. But he was saying, oh, yeah, they're now chanting death to Lebanon and death to Palestine. The only sources that I fucking heard that from are like J-Post and Times of Israel. So I have relatives in Iran that I talk to quite frequently. I ask them, like, what are these, what's the situation look like there? What's the kind of sentiment? And they're like, yeah, we fucking hate what's going on with the government, and we get that. But this kind of, they're starting to plant these little kind of weird displacement propaganda seeds. And I don't know why they're saying, now Iran is pulling out of Lebanon. Now Iran is pulling out of Palestine. Like, those are the real enemies. See, like, we got them on our side against
I'd be
them
really
now.
interested. Is there actually, like, does Gallup or whatever exist in Iran? Is there, like, polling data to figure out, like, sentiment about U.S.-led anything there? I'm actually really curious on if there's data, rather than just, like your family or that guy's family. Anybody. I'd be really curious if that data actually exists.
No, I don't think there is, man. I don't think they're actually allowed in, or like some kind of weird shit. So Iran is like really restrictive. So for example, like I'm Iranian, right? I was born there, but I live in the fucking States. If I want to go back, I have a U.S. Citizenship. I would basically be treated like I was only American. So I would have to have a guy like walk with me and the whole time.
Yeah.
Whereas if you were to go there, actually, I'm sorry, you'd be the same thing. But if somebody, like, for some reason I thought you were in fucking Europe, Will. If a European were to go there, he would totally be able to do whatever he wants, unrestricted, et cetera, things like that. And kind of another crazy thing, if I ever had an Israeli stamp on my passport, I would not be allowed to go in there as well. I think the same applies if you have if they find out you're in the military in the United States, you're not allowed to enter as well. So there's some weird shit. I really doubt they let Gallup in, but that would be interesting. But I don't know. I don't know what to say about it. It's like every time I try to kind of tell Americans about some of the situations in Iran, they just flat out don't believe me. So you know that Death to America chant that they do?
Yeah.
I don't know what this is called in English. What is it when there's a saying? Like nailed the fucking fuck, I can't even say them right, but like you nailed the nail, or you fuck, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but like there's a saying that means something else. Like you got them, you nailed the hammer, or fucking, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
What is the name of that?
I don't know what you call them, but
But you know what I'm talking about? Like, there's an expression or saying that.
Yeah,
has
maybe we just call. Oh, maybe an idiom.
Yeah, exactly, an American idiom. Right.
Uh-huh.
So the saying that they actually use, like death to America, that's an idiom. It doesn't necessarily mean you want death. That's another fucking thing that I constantly see in American politics. I'm so fucking tired of hearing about, because it doesn't mean what they fucking think it means. What do you think that means, death to America? What is that? What are the implications of that to you?
I mean, like, if I were to think about it as a rational person, I'm guessing it means that they're tired of American interests in that particular part of the world, or that America advocating for its interests in ways that are detrimental to Iran. That would be my guess.
Sure. So what do you think the actual, like, Trump hats think about that? What do you think they're...
Oh, they're probably saying that Iran wants to fund another 9/11, or 9/11s all over the U.S.
Yeah.
and kill all Americans. Right, yeah.
Exactly. I think they take it literally. So the actual, like, idiom and what it means like, to hell with. And I'm not trolling. Like, you can fucking look this shit up. It means mark bad. So that's the I don't know if you can I'll probably try to type it in chat, but it means Marakbar is the actual Farsi saying. That means like to hell with. So we say that shit for anything. If I stub my fucking toe on the bed, I'm gonna say this bed, Marakbar, to hell with this fucking bed. If I go out and the mailman doesn't deliver my mail, I say to hell with the mailman. Like that's a common fucking saying. So what they do is they kind of take these underlying Farsi words and kind of idioms and these expressions and they twist it like everything out of fucking Iran for some reason. I don't see this with any other goddamn state. I think we have an accurate representation or somewhat accurate representation of what Russia is about, of what North Korea is about, of what Australia is about, of what Germany is about. We have a somewhat decent understanding of what these fucking countries are about. But when it comes to Iran, for some fucking reason, Iran and Israel, both of these two countries, our misunderstanding of these two countries, I don't know where the fuck that comes from.
Yeah, so like
It's
I'm even uncomfortable with you saying the misunderstanding. I'm pretty sure it's just deliberate propaganda, right? I don't think
that's my implication there.
Yeah.
It is absolutely deliberate. But what I'm trying to say is I don't understand why that still comes around and nobody fucking understands these countries. Israel is included in that too. So whenever I ask somebody about like an Israeli question or kind of something about Israel in general, what they tend to give me are these propaganda talking points. The same falls with Iran. I don't understand why it is so difficult for these two countries to kind of be represented accurately in America. What are your thoughts on that?
So when did you immigrate to America?
I was like 7.
Okay, so I guess like my parents were military, so I feel like I have a pretty good background for this type of stuff. The generations before mine very much believed that America was the good guy in every single international affair that we were involved in, that America is kind of like this, like, maybe you could call this American exceptionalism, that America took the right side on every single issue we were involved in. If we're involved in an issue, like, that statement that you just said that like we're advocating for American interests, that's not true. What we're actually doing is we're just trying to free and save people around the world. So that means, so when you've set up yourself so that you are the good guy, that you're the good force that's fighting on behalf of good in the world, anybody that opposes you is necessarily evil. Right? This is why people hate communists and socialists so much in the U.S. because we fought the Red Scare and post World War II and the 60s and the Cold War and all that shit, right? And we fought in Korea, we fought in Vietnam. It was to fight against communists, and anybody that we fought against, was anti-American. So anytime we do things in other countries where we install other dictators, like the Iranian Revolution, like what we did in Libya with Gaddafi, like when we do anything in Iraq, like all of these things that we're involved in are America trying to make the lives better for its citizens. They don't look at it as like America just defending American interests, right? That's why even like Israel is viewed as like Israel is like the poor little baby that's being constantly bullied by Palestine, even though Israel literally has like 23rd century fucking military anti-missile technology, and Palestine is like lobbing defective fucking rockets over a wall with like a 10% success rate, if that.
And they have nukes. What the fuck? Whatever happened to nuclear proliferation?
Yeah, that seems to be. I actually didn't even know that until like a year ago, but that seems to be like a thing that I guess nobody just really talks about. That Israel is probably
Isn't that kind of weird? Like, what the fuck is the cause of that? Why is it that when it comes to these, I can understand the Iranian side.
China and
Let's
its
talk about the
media
Israeli
is
side.
also
Why
bullshit.
is it that nobody understands the history of Israel or knows anything about that country yet so finally supports it? And I don't want to get like too crazy about like Jewish this, Jewish that, but
I think there
is a reason for it.
I think it just plays into what I just said before. I think we very much believe in American exceptionalism, so everybody that's an ally to the United States is necessarily a good, holy person, and Israel's an ally to the United States, and that's just how we view them. That would be my guess. I don't think you need like a deep Jewish conspiracy to explain that fierce allegiance to Israel. Like my mom is like somebody that would be fiercely allegiant to Israel, but she doesn't have any type of Jewish shit going on. She just thinks that Israel are the good guys and everyone else is the bad guy, I think.
Sure. So now that we're in 2018, we destroyed the fucking only agreement that likely would have, stitched together any possibility of some kind of fucking, friendship moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
My sense, and I know you don't like anecdotal evidence, but I'm just going to give it to you anyway because I feel like you don't really have any anecdotal evidence from the Iranian side. So my evidence or my anecdotal stuff about it is that the people are okay with basically just sideswiping America when it comes to future business deals and really just working with the European companies. And I kind of get the sense from what I've read about Europeans, they kind of feel the same way. So I don't know what the fuck direction we're headed in with this whole Trump, like the trade war is kind of being in there and mixing there as well. But this whole kind of, it's this weird kind of imperialist attitude. But now instead of just, pointing it at these states that we've historically, it kind of makes sense to point them at, like, oh, North Korea kind of makes sense to be imperialist there. Iran kind of makes sense. Now we're kind of pivoting that over to these allies as well.
Well, that's
right?
a different sentiment, I think. Trump is very much so. There's been this movement by largely uneducated dumb fucks across the world that like globalism is like kind of the new spooky boogeyman, that it's bad, and that's because there are some people that have been disproportionately impacted by what you could argue are globalist trade policies, or like open markets across the world. There are some people that have lost out on that, and now these people are largely in favor of kind of like isolationist, protectionist economic policies. So this is where you see like the Trump like big tariffs to protect our industries, fucking over other countries to try to benefit the U.S. Like this is very much a thing that's resulting, I think, from people feeling burned or people feeling that they've lost out from some kind of like international trade agreement.
Sure. That makes sense.
Yeah.
You want to know something kind of interesting? You know about the Shah and all that, right? Everyone knows about that these days. Like, you know, the overthrow of the Islamic Revolution, all that shit. You know that?
Sure.
One of the few things that I feel like people don't really know is like, oh yeah, this fucking, you know, this Shah guy came in and he was a dick and he was pro-Western. He was totally pro-Western. He was actually good for a lot of the people in Iran in that sense. Like he was pro-Western. One of the shitty things about the Shah though is he had the secret police that went out and just basically kidnapped and tortured people, especially political dissidents. So that's why a lot of people got
people.
And the other thing that was,
by the way, people say that this happened under Maliki, the new Iraqi guy that we put in. By the way, that this was happening to Sunni people. That Maliki was running these like underground jails where he was running at Sunnis and torturing them and imprisoning them for no reason.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I believe it. But so, you know, that whole situation kind of unfolded. There's a lot of reasons why the Shah was kind of overthrown. One of the biggest reasons that I don't hear talked about that much is like the income inequality that came out of that. So like the classism that was, you know, the class separation was fucking huge. That's why a lot of the people kind of resented him to begin with. It wasn't necessarily like, yeah, he's a dick and he's throwing, you know, so-and-so into jail every once in a while like that. Yeah, it's a dick move, but that wasn't really enough to kind of spur a revolution, right?
Sure. This is similar to what's going on in Yemen, right? Wasn't the previous Yemen leader, I think it was a Saudi-backed Yemen leader, was like massively fucking wealthy, but everybody in that country was super fucking poor?
I'm ignorant on Yemen, to be honest. I wish I knew more. But yeah, so you know, the income inequality was really the catalyst for, you know, the revolution. But what's interesting that I wish more Americans knew is that when Khomeini, the you know, the supreme leader, the main guy that came in to be the face of the revolution, came in, he wasn't like an Islamist at all. He wasn't this guy that came in and said, I'm just going to bring in religion and I'm going to modernize it. We're all going to be like Muslim together, blah, 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 blah. He was actually the exact opposite of that. His platform, his primary platform was that I'm going to solve this income inequality problem that the West brought on us. He was like, I swear to God, he was like the fucking Obama. I think even literally one of his sayings was, I'm going to be the change that you can believe in. So when he, you know, had that kind of sentiment going forward, a lot of people bought into that. He was like this kind of left-leaning. He was religious, whatever, but that wasn't his primary platform. He was left-leaning, like very forward-thinking, progressive, whatever. But as soon as he got fucking office, man, he did the exact same fucking thing as the Shah.
Sure.
Like he empowered the military, empowered the police, and he basically kept doing the same shit. So like, it
sounds a little bit ironically like Obama too, right? Because Obama didn't really do
exactly.
too much.
Right. So it's this weird thing. Like, you know, the mildly educated people about the Iranian topic will say, well, what the fuck, you guys, did the revolution for a pro-theocratic regime? It's like, no, not really, not at all. That guy was a fucking slimy fuck. Everyone hates him. It's, you know, the rural cave dweller Iranians love that guy, just like the rural fucking southern, you know, dumb fucks like Trump here. There's all these kind of parallels that you can draw. Ultimately, at the end of the day, the smart people's voices get drowned out in both sides of the, you know, opposition that are fucking screaming at each other. That's the crazy shit that I wish people would understand about both these countries. It's like the crazies, their narrative is the one that are plastered. Like, you know, the Iranians, the conservative Iranians, how they think Americans are is like, oh, look at these fucking Trump supporters. They just want to bomb you. And that's not like it's a hard. I don't know how to say this, but it's hard for me to accept that as the mainstream and only narrative of Americans. There's a lot of fucking deviation in between that, right? So the same thing kind of happens in America. Like you hear these constant crazies like the Ayatollah and all these guys. That's not representation of the actual Iranian people. Like, that sounds kind of cliche and lovey-dovey, but that's the fucking God's honest truth.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think it is representative of the American people at the moment. But
I mean, sure, but it's not like there's other people, you know, a good number of other people that don't believe that and don't feel that way. But what's crazy is, I think like at the end of the day, what we're ultimately doing on both sides, that both sides are kind of feeding into this fire, and it's going to get worse the more we kind of keep doing this. I just don't understand at the end of the day, why the fuck can't we just have a dialogue? Why can't we extend our hands?
Well, right now, a dialogue in America is impossible because people can't agree on what reality is. I think that's like the ultimate crime. This is actually why I changed my stance on deplatforming recently, is because I think that people do the most damage that's being done to politics right now is that people push things that are just not reality. They're just not real. So like, for instance, like Fox News does this a lot with things like pushing like uranium one, the idea that Hillary Clinton like unilaterally sold off, because the thing is that if like you believe in some of these fantastical stories, your entire platform makes sense. Like I would vote for Trump if I really thought that Hillary Clinton unilaterally sold off 1/5 of our uranium reserves and the deep state and all that shit was real and Pizzagate happened. Yeah, of course I would fucking vote for Trump, right? Yeah. So like the problem right now is that so many people are disconnected, so many, mainly on the right now, so many people are so fucking disconnected with what is actually real that how do you have a conversation? There is no good dialogue to be had. It's almost insulting to say, like, have a dialogue. Like, how am I supposed to talk to a person that thinks that global warming is a myth perpetuated by China? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, what conversation am I supposed to have with a person that's fucking stupid? Yeah.
So what do you do as like a streamer with a platform like that? Like what I know I've obviously seen a lot of your videos, but like at some point I think what you do, it makes the most sense. You just have to give up, right? You say there's no way we can reconcile our two opposing points, so we're done. And then you basically is that it? Like
most of my arguments usually devolve into like, hey, like this is how you read a chart, this is what this piece of data means. Like it sounds really dumb, but that's what it is. It's like there's like a massive like illiteracy, I guess, when it comes to like right-leaning people in terms of understanding issues. And to some extent, like I can understand it because like the problem was that like I think that like 50 to 100 years ago, this is gonna sound really mean, but like our problems were a lot simpler. Like when you look at the Civil Rights Act, that's a relatively simple thing. Stop discriminating against black people in the fucking letter of the law. You cannot be a bank and say I'm not gonna loan you money because you're black, right? That's a really simple message that's really easy to get people behind and advertise, right? And like those problems have largely been solved, at least in the United States. But now, if we want to talk about shit like institutionalized racism and shit like that, these are much more complicated problems that involve like a much higher level of like literacy or educational, like not even educational, but like critical thought, behind them.
Sure.
So I think like that makes things like really hard to discuss.
Well, yeah, and I think what a lot of these kind of right-wing conservative folks do is they've kind of diluted what it means to have these discussions or what it means to kind of be a racist. They've diluted it to such a point where it's like, if I don't drop the N-word with a hard R, I'm not racist, but anything else I fucking say is not racist. As long as I don't drop that hard R, I'm not racist. Boom, gotcha.
Yeah, that's kind of exactly what I'm saying. It's like because the easy problems have been solved, like nailing someone on the hard problem, and this is why centrists are so fucking cancerous to argue with too, because they provide legitimacy to this. Is like, I'll be like, okay, like Lauren Southern, and I feel very comfortable. I could defend this in an academic setting or in any type of setting. Lauren Southern is an avowed white nationalist. She is very clearly a white nationalist. Fucking period. Okay? But like when people are like, okay, well, hold on, Destiny. Did she specifically say that she wants all black people killed? And it's like, okay, well, no.
Right.
Well, if she didn't actually say that, is she really a white nationalist? Like, okay, well, you got me, dude. So like, unless you're literally on the street corner screaming like death to all black people, you're not racist. It's like,
yeah, it's a shitty fucking position to take.
Yeah.
I hate that we actually give it legitimacy too, because it's like if you fight back, it's like it gets even worse. It ends up being a fucking poo-throwing conversation.
And now, in order to attack those people on the farthest of the right, I've got to run through all these uneducated dumb fucks that call themselves centrists, that are too stupid, ignorant, or spineless to take a strong position on anything. And it gives me the appearance of appearing extreme left, even though there's not a single leftist community online that would welcome me because I'm very clearly not extreme left. But then to any normal person, I have the appearance of being an extreme lefty because these centrists in the middle are like go so far out of their way to defend people on the extreme right. Like,
Sure. You know what's funny is some guy in the chat, Z Gembo, I'm probably butchering his name, Zembo, I don't know. He just posted this picture of Musavi. Do you remember that? The Green Revolution?
Nope. What is this involving?
Wait, you don't remember that shit? So
No.
It was the Green Revolution like 6 years ago. There was that, uprising in Iran. You don't remember that?
I didn't 6 years ago. I don't know fuck all about Iran.
Okay, well, anyway, so there was this Green Revolution in Iran. A bunch of people had these green bands around their arms. Like it was the next upcoming election, all this shit, blah, 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 blah. People genuinely thought that, hey, this time Iran's actually going to have like a progressive government coming in because the platform leader was genuinely progressive, and I do think he was genuinely progressive. But what ends up happening is that it ended in a bloodbath, pretty much. So it ended in a point where the revolution was squashed, so to say. So I have these American friends that are like, well, why don't the Iranians just fucking revolt, bro? And it's like, dude, you understand what the fuck that entails?
Yeah.
Like, I hate that fucking
And
American
not only
narrative.
what it entails, but like you don't even have a guarantee that what comes afterwards is going to be better than what you just had. Like Fidel Castro exists in Cuba as a result of a revolution, you know? And I don't know, like depending, I guess, on how you feel about Fidel, like that country didn't necessarily turn out like way better as a result of that. And I'm sure there are countless fucking revolutions across the world where the end result, I feel like, and I could be wrong, but because I really don't know too much about like the histories of all these countries. History is my worst subject, but like I think the Arab Spring shit that was like motivated by the Tunisia uprising in Tunisia, that actually did turn out really successfully for those people, right?
Sure.
Which was but I think that's a really rare thing, and I think people kind of like look at that and they're like, oh well, fuck, if Tunisia did it, then everyone else should be able to do it too, and it should be no problem. But it's like revolutions that's a big fucking thing, my dude. Like.
Yes. Well, so it's funny that you mentioned that because during the Arab Spring that was going on, I was in college and I was taking some political science classes. That's what I actually majored in. I don't want to fucking talk about like I'm the political science genius. I forgot fucking most of it. I don't work in the field anymore. Whatever. That was years ago. Anyway, it was going on around during that time. And what's funny is I had a lot of left-leaning people in my classes because I'm in a left-leaning place in the world, and all of them were pro fucking revolution. Sure. And I took the stance that you're kind of taking, which is, hey, you don't know what the fuck is going to happen until it's done and the dust has settled. And then, dude, you should have seen the fucking looks on their face. They're like, oh, what are you, like, pro-dictator? What do you want these people killed indefinitely? Like, how can this end badly? I'm like, dude, listen, that's my point here is, like, there's a lot of fucking nuance and there's a lot of, like, specificity that goes into these revolutions. Yeah. Like, you don't know if the hardliners are going to really fucking come in afterwards because the crazies are the ones with most of the power anyway. That's why they're fucking crazy. So to kind of circle this back to the Iran thing, like, the thing that's crazy to me is I keep hearing this, well, you know, just get them to revolt internally. So they tried, and somebody said it was 2009. I think that's accurate. 2009, the Green Revolution happened, and the Iranian people got fucked up, like bad. So, like, Iran is one of those countries where it's kind of in this weird area, like the classism, the growing income inequality is starting to get to that point where they will not give a fuck, and revolution might actually be around, you know, the corner. The precipice is there, but it's not at that point where it's like some fucking shithole in like rural, I don't know, like unheard of places in Iraq where it's just simple. You got nothing. You have a goat and you have a fucking cow, and like I'm gonna go and I'm just gonna take my shovel and go and protest. A lot of these people have fucking jobs. There is somewhat of a vibrant economy there. A lot of these people have families. Like it's a different thing in Iran. I hate to say that, but it really is different than a lot of these places.
This is like another thing that Americans have trouble with, and like I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this because my chat might not believe me, but I'm pretty sure that like a lot of Americans still legitimately believe that countries in the Middle East, like you guys might have like one or two cities, but for the most part you still ride around on camels and shit. Like I'm pretty sure that there are a decent number of Republicans that actually think that, because every time a picture gets posted of like Tehran or some shit on Reddit, people are like, oh wow, I didn't know that city is so big and beautiful. Like, dude, it's a fucking first world country. Like, what the fuck? Of course they've got big fucking cities with electricity. Like, no, there's not like one fucking dude with a windmill that powers like all the fucking goat farmers, you know? And it's like, and someone else in my chat like brought it up, like a revolution in Iran, it's not like there's like the royal fucking Prince Guard and he's got like 17 dudes with like the big fucking Arabic swords. It's like, no, they have a fully fleshed out fucking military, okay, with a lot, there has to be a lot of fucking shit that has to go on to overthrow that government. Like,
yeah, exactly. And I'm not pro-Iranian government. I think they're a total piece of shit. I'm actually anti like every government. That's kind of why I have these libertarian sentiments being in America, because, you know, I constantly have these discussions with Americans. It's a weird thing with conservatives because they're so fucking pro-government, but yet they're so anti-government. So they're totally okay with like arming the military, giving them more resources, whatever, manpower, etc. But at the same time, they
want
don't
the Second
their
Amendment
rights
so that they
away.
can, or they want the Second Amendment so they can fight against the government that they constantly want to arm as much as possible.
Okay, right, exactly. So at some point, I'm like, you know what? And it's not it's when our economy starts to collapse, when this empire starts to go down, they're not going to point those Abrams at fucking foreign people anymore. They're going to point them at you. and you think your fucking little shitty AK-47 or AR-15 is going to defend yourself with a military that's been highly trained in urban warfare for the past fucking 25 years. They're not going to. So that's kind of what I feel is like they don't understand like the dichotomy or the kind of representation that the military has. They're fighting for you, quote unquote, right now, but those are the same people that'll come for your fucking rights first. So be careful with how many fucking resources you give them, like truly. So the conservative narrative inherently, I feel like, is fucking ass backwards. Like they don't really know what they're doing in the long term.
Yeah.
Like this constant ridiculous support of these people. These are the same people that will turn their guns on you. I fucking promise you. It's happened in every goddamn empire as it slowly starts to come down. Now, whether or not you actually believe America will ever come down, that's up to you in the fantasy land that you believe in. I think it will. But you gotta kind of be more open-minded to this kind of shit. But I mean, really, at the end of the day, when that Green Revolution was happening in Iran, those people got fucking murked. They got wrecked. Like 5-man gank bot lane. Everyone was down there. There was not a fucking chance that those small pockets of resistance that were starting to foment and grow larger, there is no fucking chance those would have got larger. Like the fucking military with armed guards, like totally Kevlar'd, machine guns, all that shit were on the floor like within a week of the movement starting. People lost their fucking lives. People lost their families. That's one thing that Americans need to fucking understand is like when this shit starts to grow and get real, like real talk, it gets deadly fast. So you have to put yourself in their fucking shoes and be like, am I willing to risk? Is any conservative right now that wants to fucking protect their guns, are you going to really walk into the fucking White House lawn with an AR schlepped on your back? Really fight for it? Really die for it? You really going to do that? I haven't heard of anything crazy happen. Like, yeah, sure, there's like an off shooter, there's a fucking whatever shooter every once in a while, but nothing really big, right? Where is the outrage here? Why aren't they really fighting for their guns the way they expect everyone else to? It's fucking crazy. It's hypocrisy.
Yeah. Oh God. Did you ever see? Do you know Tommy Lauren is?
Oh yeah, of course.
Did you ever see that fucking tweet that she made about like Syrians shouldn't be fleeing their countries, like real Syrians would be staying by to like fight or whatever? Like, oh, dude, I hate her. Oh my God.
So can I say something kind of fucked up?
Yeah, sure.
I think you might consider this fucked up. I don't know. I've said this to different people, and some people consider it kind of fucked up. But there's certain kind of immigrant groups that you're actually okay with taking on. And I'm going to jerk myself off and say, like, Iranians are actually one of them. So there was this study done by the State Department, and for the life of me, I have tried to fucking find this. If you can find it, I'll give you like $100. The American State Department did a study that said, okay, like, what are the representations of immigrant groups inside of America in terms of like, there was a few bits of data that they used. I think one of them was like education that they gain, income that they end up acquiring within their lifetime, shit like that. And Iranians tend to be one of the highest ranking ones. The other one is like Japanese Americans, I think, or Chinese Americans. And Syrians were in there too, in like the top 5.
Yeah, that's not actually surprising at all because
it's not, right?
Because because they're coming from fucking overseas. Like if they're making the trip, like they've got to be like pretty well educated to make it this far, right?
Well, so that was one aspect of it. The other aspect was more of a cultural aspect, which I think a lot of these guys, like, who's your debate with that blonde chick that was so like, I don't want to talk about economics anymore because you're more educated. I want to talk about culture.
Southern, yeah.
Lauren Southern. So there's an aspect of that which I'd hate to fucking say it's true, but it's really hard to quantify. And I think that's why you have a problem with it, is you can't really quantify that kind of shit, and it's hard. I kind of do see her point a little bit with some of these countries, because some of these countries that these people are coming from are indeed fucked up, right? So
well, no, I mean, like, that's borne out in data. Like, if you look at, like, for instance, immigrants to Europe, like, people always say, like, Muslims come from Muslim countries and they fuck shit up. That's actually not true. Like, nobody comes from Syria and, like, commits a fuck ton of crimes. Nobody comes from Iran and commits. It's usually, like, Muslim countries from North Africa, right? I mean, like, that seems to be pretty true. Yeah. And the issue, to be clear, like, I'm not going to sit here and try to put forth the bullshit argument that every culture is, like, the same. My argument is that I don't think cultures are intrinsically tied to, like, the genetics of a person. Like, I think that any person could like take on a new culture or whatever, or like it would take time, obviously, and depending on where you come, like maybe not even in your lifetime, maybe it'll be your children, but yeah.
Sure. No, I think, okay, I didn't know you kind of felt that way. I feel the exact same way.
But I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and tell you that, like, a fucking immigrant from like Sudan is going to be, like, just as educated and equipped to deal with everything as, like, an immigrant from, you know, like Japan or China, you know, or like Shanghai, China, or whatever, not like country farmer China. Yeah.
Dude, and you debated that JonTron guy, if I remember right?
I don't know if I'd call that a debate, but yeah, I had a conversation.
Okay, well, there was an attempt to have a discussion about intelligent topics, which didn't go that well with JonTron, right?
Yeah.
So he claimed he was Iranian, right?
Yeah, I think he's half Iranian. His father or something.
Half Iranian.
Yeah.
So what's interesting, there's another kind of interesting thing that happens with Iranians and my family a little bit like this too, because we were a religious minority in Iran. That's why we had to get the fuck out. But what's interesting, I don't know what you call it in America, and I'm retarded when it comes to like racist stuff. So I'll say some shit. So okay, I don't know if you're gonna get banned for me saying this, but you know, like, can I say like racial stuff but not racially? Like, can I use a racial term but not say it racially? Like,
Yeah, I think it's okay on YouTube. I think we're fine. Yeah.
Okay. So I told a friend, like, some guy said, and I genuinely apologize if this offends anyone. I seriously didn't know it was racist at the time, but somebody was like, said something about wetbacks, like that's a racist term.
Yeah, for Hispanics in the U.S. Yeah.
Right, and in my fucking retarded ignorance, I was like, they think that that's racist, but how's that a bad thing? Because they get sweat on their back from working in the fields and like being these guys that do the labor work. Like, that's not racist. Take fucking take pride in like being a good guy and doing not take pride, but like I didn't see it as a racist term because these guys are like doing the fucking labor for America. That's how I interpreted it. My American friend had to fucking correct me on that and be like, yo, that is I guess he said like they float on their back or some shit. I still don't understand it. It's stupid racism.
Well, it's not even so much like what it necessarily means. It's just like how is it commonly used is like what like determines whether or not it's racist or not is like typically right. And like no like or at least as far as I'm aware, I don't hear other Hispanics call other Hispanics like wetback, like even unironically or even ironically in the US. Just not like if somebody is saying that to Hispanic, they're usually saying it to be racist. Like
exactly. Yeah. So however it's supposed, you're totally right. It is supposed to be racist. And he said, oh, it's because they float on their back on pieces of wood or something and they get through the river into the States. But I think you're gonna encounter a lot, and I hope this isn't racist either. But you're gonna encounter a lot of Iranians that are Uncle Toms. My family is like this too.
This is what my mom is like. Yeah.
So I don't know where this fucking comes from, but my brother is the best example of this. When he came over, he had this like Iranian kind of. So one kind of downfall of Iranian men is where I don't know, what do you call it, like a chauvinist? What is that? Like not a chauvinist, but like
patriarchal, maybe, like very much traditional family values.
Traditional, yeah. Kind of. What is it when you like try to front and be like an alpha dog? Like there's a name for that.
Masculine.
What the fuck is that? Yeah, but it's God damn it, I'm trying to think of this word. Sure, like hyper masculine. Like they try to be hyper masculine. That's a deeply Iranian American thing. So he came into this state like that, and he was all like, "Well, Iran this, Iran that. We're not that bad." And blah blah blah. Over time, his fucking views have changed so much that he's a Trump handsy. And in fact, it got to the point where we actually can't talk. We haven't talked for like 2 years because like I just wrecked him. I'm like, you can't start fucking judging people like this in these broad generalities, you dumb fuck. Anyway. The weird kind of phenomenon that I see is a lot of Iranians that immigrate to the U.S., a lot of them end up being those Uncle Toms, and I don't understand why that is.
I think I think what I said earlier, I think it has to do with survivorship bias. Like if you immigrate and you make it, then you kind of get this idea that everybody that immigrates should be able to make it, and if they don't, it's their own fault because I made it, so you should be able to make it. I think that's a big thing with a lot of immigrants that come to the U.S.
Sure. Well, so for me, what's weird is like I've noticed Iranians that come to other states. They have and I think this was mentioned in that State Department article I was talking about, but they have a very easy time assimilating into that environment very easily. Like one of the easiest out of any immigration group that comes into whatever. So this is true in like Sweden, just generally anywhere in Europe, America, even South America. Believe it or not, there's a diaspora there as well. But they have a very easy time kind of meshing in with that culture. So what's weird though to me is that at some pockets, you end up getting this Uncle Tom syndrome. My brother being one of them, JonTron fucking being one of them as well. So so the next time you run into a fucking JonTron, don't be too shocked because there's a lot of those fuckers out there. Like the guy you just debated earlier, he claimed to be Iranian at one point. He didn't sound Iranian to me, but maybe he was. The weird thing is, I just want to give you a heads up that sentiment, that mentality, that cultural like. Where you flip sides kind of, and then you take one extreme and then you're at the other extreme, like, oh, I'm pro-Trump, I'm Iranian pro-Trump.
Yeah.
That is all too fucking common. It's gotten to the point where I honestly want to start my own YouTube channel being like, I'm the Iranian Trump supporter, make just a bunch of money off these fucking retards. Like, yeah, he has really good points. Watch me Uncle Tom this out.
My whole family is like this. You have no idea. I remember I've told a story on stream before. I guess because there's YouTube people here, they've heard it. But like, I was at when I went to Christmas with my family. So my brother and sister, that are half brother, half sister, that come from the same, my dad, they are both oh no, wait, actually it's even more than that. Basically I've got two brothers and two sisters that are half brothers, half sisters, each like boy girl, are like paired off. My parents were in marriages beforehand, right? On my dad's side, he had a daughter and a son, and they're half Filipino, okay, and they look it. These people do not look white like I'm. Like I actually think I'm like super white passing. If you saw me, you wouldn't know I was half Cuban. And then on my mom's side, she had two kids, and they are one of them is like very much non-white. She's fully Cuban, and I forget what her husband was at the time, but we were sitting around the table and we were having a discussion, I guess, on just like random life memes. And I remember saying something about like, one of my big regrets growing up is I really wish you would have taught me to speak Spanish, Mom, because my mom is fucking fluent in Spanish. Half my family is fluent in Spanish, and a quarter of them can only speak Spanish. Like, so it kind of sucks that I don't know Spanish. And when I said that, dude, so my mom got upset, who is Cuban. Her sister got very upset, who is very Cuban, from New York also, very fucking loud. She was NYPD for like 20 years, so very, very, very much like that kind of person. My brother got upset, who is pretty dark, like pretty obviously dark, who looks very Hispanic. His wife, who is, I think, it's either El Salvadorian or Puerto Rican, and very much so got upset. And all of these people are fluent in Spanish. And they were all like, no, if you're in America, you don't need to know Spanish. Like, if you're in America, you shouldn't be learning other languages. Like, you should just need English here, blah, 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 blah. And it was like a huge fight. I was like, I can't even believe that this is like, I can't believe that you're so upset that I just wish I knew how to speak a second language. Like, oh my fucking God, it was insane.
Christ.
And like in the other room, I have like my great uncle who's like 100 years old who can't even understand anything I say because he only speaks Spanish. And I was like, Jesus fucking Christ. Like, like the
That's
self-hatred
so sad,
is like
man.
it's like a real fucking meme. Holy shit.
I told some guys at work, and I live in a fucking like left-leaning area. After the U.S. didn't qualify for the World Cup, and Mexico was doing pretty well, and I was like, well, U.S. is out. I'm gonna go for Mexico, and I got like two weird glances my way, like what the fuck. I'm like, dude, they're like representing North America. Like, what the fuck is the? They're like, I've run into Americans that don't consider Mexico as a part of North America.
Yeah,
like it's Canada and America. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude?
it's
like,
white people. I catch people on this a lot. I even tell people when I'm debating not to do this because it makes them seem racist. Fuentes to this. I don't know if you notice this, but Americans will very oftentimes, the racist ones, they say a lot of things that like give you kind of a clue into how they think. They will very often conflate immigrants, illegal immigrants, and refugees. These are all the same exact
Yeah.
thing. And this happened several times when I was debating Fuentes, and I had to keep reminding him, like, hey, like, illegal immigrants, refugees, and immigrants are three very different groups of people with three very different profiles. Like, the data on these people is very fucking different. But he would say things like, well, immigrants bring all sorts of diseases, blah, 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 and then even link me an article, and it had to do about studying, like, a very specific group of illegal immigrants. Like, these are illegals. These aren't the same as, like, normal immigrants. Like, these are, like, oh, my God, like...
That's fucked. I was talking to this lady on Facebook a long time ago when I actually had that fucking shitter Facebook. If any of you fuckers have Facebook, get rid of that crap. It's bad for your fucking psyche.
Oh, God.
I was debating this like 40-year-old white chick from, I think it was like Alabama or something. And I let her know, I was like, hey, I'm an Iranian immigrant. She's like, well, you should get out. And I was like, listen here, bitch. Like, if you think about what I've done in my life or where my family's come from, I'm more fucking American than you are.
Sure,
we
yeah.
left our home country. We got religious asylum here. It took us like 5 fucking years to immigrate here to get it all through the loopholes. We did it legally. And then I got my fucking citizenship on top of that. So your entitled bitch ass got your citizenship here or your right to live because you popped out of a fucking vagina in this fucking part of the rock. Like, you didn't do shit to earn it. That's what really irks me about a lot of these people.
And like
monopolize their Americanship.
Here's
I just came out of a pussy here and I'm white, so I'm more American.
And
Like,
here's the big fucking meme. People that illegally immigrate to the United States did more to be an American than you fucking did. Like, that's the honest truth. Like, illegally immigrating from Mexico, that's a hard fucking gig, dude. That's some fucking, a lot of women get fucking raped. A lot of people get fucking killed, left in trucks and just like fucking bake in the sun all day. Like, that's a hard thing. If you illegally immigrated to the United States, you went on a fucking adventure to get here. Like, you really fucking tried to get here. And then some dude that just popped out of some chick, like 40 years ago was going to sit here and talk about like, fuck off,
fucking
dude.
Truth, man. Yeah, my fucking. So let me tell you a real quick story about where I come from. So my dad was a junkie in Iran. There's a huge heroin problem. There still is. My mom was married to him. I have 3 siblings, so there's 4 of us total. She just had to leave one day because my dad was so bad. He would literally get to a point where he would sell our fucking furniture to get his next high. So he'd bring like random fucking peeps into our house and just like let them stay over and blah, 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 blah. So my mom had to dip. In Iran, the husband has to give like permission for the woman to leave or to get divorced and all that. So obviously she didn't fucking do that. She got a human smuggler and just split one day. We went to Pakistan for a while. And then from there, we went to Turkey for a while and then Germany. And then finally, when all the paperwork was done, we got asylum. We came to America, somewhere in America. I don't want to say exactly where, but the point is, like, we started pretty fucking well off in Iran. By the time we got here, we were dirt fucking poor. Like we had nothing. We were inside of a fucking shitty apartment, 2-bedroom apartment, in like the fucking low income housing, whatever. Now all 3 of my siblings are engineers, and I work in the cybersecurity industry.
Sure.
So we're all, we've quote unquote made it. But the fact is, like, that path, that trail, like, I got into college because I wrote the intro essay about like how my mom is the most influential person, and it's like, oh, your mom is the most influential person, you pussy. It's like, no, seriously though, my mom is off the hook. That's what she did. So it's like, the amount that's actually required to get here legally is ridiculous. And the people that do it are absolutely fucking American. I'm sick and tired of this fucking meme that they're not. Even if I come here and I tell people like, oh, I'm an American citizenship, they don't really give a fuck. It's not really the same American as they define it.
Yeah, if you're not like white enough, like people are very much like aligning like white with American now, which is very interesting. But
I hate that monopolization of it, man. It's really such a detriment to our fucking country. Like, I'm not one of those that says, oh, diversity is our strength. Not all the time, but when it is, it's fucking powerful. And then like this, my story is a success story, thank fucking God. But like, I don't understand that monopolization of it. I fucking hate it, but I guess it is what it is. It's here to stay.
Yeah.
I just don't know how to dismantle that. How do you break that shit down? I don't get it. How do you tell someone like, listen, fuckhead, there's a lot of other Americans that aren't white. How do you get that in their psyche?
I don't know, dude. It's hard. I don't do it. Like I said, when I talk to people like that, I usually get like very condescending very quickly. People that are like white nationalists and whatnot, I usually just attack their character. I mean, it sounds bad, but like when people start talking about like how superior they are because they're like a white person and shit, and I'm talking to a dude that's like not even a college dropout, like he didn't even go to college, and he doesn't have a good job, and he just doesn't really have like anything to say. Like if he died right now, nobody would fucking miss him because he hasn't accomplished shit in his life, and he's talking about how superior like his, like if anything, like that should make you a greater candidate for being removed from society because you have all these advantages and gifts of being fucking white, and you haven't done fucking anything with it. Like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Like, I haven't ever really like given serious thought into how to convert these people. I usually just get upset and just start like personally attacking them.
Yeah, I just stopped. I used to try for a long time, and then I feel like I entrenched them more in their views, and myself too. But it's one of those things. Hopefully we tackle it. But look here, dude. Like, I'm an Iranian. You're an American. I mean, we're both Americans, but we come from different heritages. And here we are having like a civil discussion. Like, why the fuck can't this be possible, right? It's totally possible.
Well, that's because we agree probably on the majority of things, right?
I feel like even if I were to disagree with you on some core shit, and we probably do, we probably have to talk about it at length to get there. But even if we did, I kind of feel like we're the type of personalities that wouldn't end up doing that. You're into philosophy. I actually minored in philosophy. So people that are educated, I think that's a key thing to kind of lead into civil discourse. Yeah, and we lack that all too much.
Well, not only do we lack that, we actively campaign against education in the U.S. Like Republicans actively say that like education is just like the liberal indoctrination institutes and shit. like Republicans actually say this shit. So like, what do you say? Like they actively are like fucking themselves over and like making it so future generations are fucked over, you know? So
I think a huge way to kind of breaking that barrier. I don't know if this is true. There's no science to back it up. This is just my thoughts on it. But a huge thing that we could do is start teaching philosophy at a younger age.
I think that would be great. Yeah, like I said earlier, like everybody engages in philosophy all the time, whether or not you know it or don't, or whether you want to admit it or not. Like every single time you're making a decision between two things, you're engaging in philosophy. Like you have to be. Like, yeah. Sure.
All right. Well, hey man, I enjoyed you having me on. If you ever get in touch with John Trump, I'm going to go fuck himself from a real Iranian, not halvesy like him. Ooh. Love your stream. Keep it up. And then when the fuck are you heading back to Twitch? What happened with that? Are you going back there or what?
I got a 30-day ban for saying faggot.
For saying the F. Okay, so Mo, the CS streamer, got one too. But his, you should see the video.
But I think his only happened because of what happened with mine. So I feel really bad for Mo. Like, I'm pretty sure that he only got banned because Twitch wants to look consistent. So now I feel really bad because he got banned because of me.
God damn it, dude! That platform, is it headed in the wrong direction? Like, is that bad to ban?
I mean, like,
I don't know.
I don't necessarily disagree. Like, I mean, we probably shouldn't say words like that, and even more so, like things like autistic and retarded are probably words that we shouldn't say anymore. But like, damn, I mean, like, I would have gotten the message with a 3-day ban. It didn't have to be fucking 30 days. That's insane. But yeah.
So you're gonna go back and never say it then, right? Or are you gonna test the waters?
That. Okay. No. I don't. If I think something is not allowed, I don't test the waters. It's my career. It's been my career for 9 years. I'm not gonna test the waters on it. But that, sure. And then I've got to get rid of. I think I've done a pretty good job in not saying like retarded or autistic today. I think I might have said like once, but I think for the most part I can probably eliminate it from my vocab. If I have to for my job, I mean, you have to. Either, you swim or die, right?
Are those words banned too, autistic and retard, or is it just
my partner dude told me, and technically they're under the TOS the same way that faggot is. Like it's the exact same thing. Oh my god!
I hate to break it to you, you're gonna get banned again.
Nah, I can cut it out. By the end of like this 30 days, I'll probably never be saying it. Like I said, like even today, like I've only let it slip a few times. So like I'm pretty sure that like I can be done with it after like a couple weeks, or after like a week, after a few days, I should be good.
All right, well, good luck, buddy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, go get some dinner. I think you're probably starving by now.
Yeah, probably.